ようこそ。 お疲れ様です。 ごきげんよう。 こんにちは。お疲れ様です。 調子はいかがですか？ お疲れ様です。
So if you have seen the previews, you will recognize some of the content in today's broadcast, but there is so much more. This stream is an opportunity for the development team to speak directly to you, to introduce even more and clarify what you may have seen in the previews as well. But please do keep in mind that this isn't fully comprehensive. There's even more adjustments to the final in the Let's talk about our guests. Obviously, having director 𝐂𝐢𝐧𝐝 here is so much fun, and Patrick will be doing the Japanese and English, so you'll be hearing a lot of them both. So, Tokura-san, what would you like to say to everyone before we get stuck in?
はい、最初に徳田さんから自己紹介やコメントをお願いします。
はい、モンスターハンターワイルドディレクターの徳田優です。今日はこのような場を設けていただきありがとうございます。僕はモンスターハンター G から20年間、モンスターハンターを作り続けております。今日はよろしくお願いします。
Hello everyone, I'm 𝐂𝐢𝐧𝐝, the director of Monster Hunter Wilds. It's really nice to be here with you guys today. It's a good opportunity to speak to you directly. I've been working on the Monster Hunter series for 20 years now, ever since Monster Hunter G times. So yeah, good to get a chance to talk to you, and let's have fun.
Amazing, yeah. But the open beta test was, honestly, it was the response was overwhelming. We saw just a huge variety of responses and feedback, and just people enjoying it, and also sharing, what they thought of it in a constructive way. So, Tokura-san, could you talk a little bit about what your initial impressions were, seeing all the different reactions to the beta?
オープンベータテストの、ユーザーの反応への徳田さんの反応について教えてもらえますでしょうか。
はい、まず本当にたくさんの方にご参加いただき、ありがとうございました。クロスプレイのマッチングサーバーにもし問題があった場合に、修正期間を取るために、モンスターハンターワールドのオープンベータテストよりも1ヶ月早く、開催したんですけれども、おかげさまで大きなサーバートラブルもなくテストを終えることができました。
Thank you very much, first of all, to all the many players around the world who took part in the beta. It was a very useful experience for us. You may have realized that the timeline was even earlier on this beta than the one we had from Monster Hunter World back in the day. It was about a month earlier before launch. The reason we had this one earlier was because of the addition of crossplay to Monster Hunter Wilds. That new system meant that we really wanted to make sure we had enough time to fix any issues that might have arisen with crossplay matchmaking on the servers. But fortunately, we were able to get through the open beta test without any significant hitches in that area.
また皆さんの、楽しかっただったりだとか、もっとこうだったらよかったなみたいな、声を糧にしてですね、チーム全体がモチベーションを上げて、制作や改善に取り組むことができました。
Of course, it wasn't just about technical confirmation. It was also great to just see everyone's feedback, hearing all the players say how fun it was to play the game. And of course, your wishes and requests for things that you weren't enjoying quite as much about it. It was all such valuable feedback, and it's been great motivation for us to just finish the full game and make it even better. So thank you again for that.
Yeah, it really was a fantastic opportunity for everyone, and for us to get some great learnings and observations too. And obviously, we've mentioned the open beta and what you thought about that. What were your thoughts, Tokura-san, on the recently published previews and interviews we've seen from press from around the globe?
はい、先日メディアのプレビューも公開されていると思うんですけど、徳田さんは確認されてますか？いかがでしたでしょうか？
はい、まず世界中からですね、初心者からもベテランさんまで、すごく幅広い層の、ライターさんが、大阪に来てくださって、OBT からの改善点はもちろんですけど、ゲーム作品としてそもそもどうなのかだったりだとか、部分についてですね、とても楽しんで、ポジティブなレビューをたくさんくださったので、まずとても嬉しかったです。
Yeah, that was a really great experience. We had journalists from all over the world come and join us in Osaka, and it was a real range of people in terms of Monster Hunter play experience. Some of them were veteran hunters like yourselves, some of them were more on the beginner side, and getting to see their positive preview impressions was really exciting for me, because not just in terms of getting the news out there about improvements that have been made since the open beta test in the version they played, but their take on the game as a whole was something that was really fun for me to see, especially because it was very positive.
もうこれだけできてるんだったらもう大阪から帰りたくないみたいなことを言うメディアの方もいらっしゃいました。興味ある方はぜひ記事とか動画とかもチェックしてみてください。
Some of them were having so much fun and they said the game felt so finished already. They just didn't want to leave Osaka. They wanted to stay there and keep playing it for a long time. But unfortunately, we had to release them from the office. But yeah, if anyone hasn't checked out those preview impressions already, I'd encourage you to take a look because they were really great to see.
はい、ではそれではここからはジョーとジョノから、説明があった通り、製品版で調整される内容と、OBT から変更される内容について、ユーザーの皆様にお知らせしたいと思います。
So yeah, as you guys, Joe and Jono, both mentioned earlier, today is a chance for me to talk directly to the community about some adjustments that me and the team are making to the game based on all the valuable feedback we got from you players about the open beta test.
All right, well, let's go ahead and get into it. I think we have a lot to cover today. So let's start with our first topic. Our first topic is performance. So during the open beta test, which was actually running on an earlier version of the game that's different from the internal version that the team is working on, we actually mentioned that the final release will have improved performance over the open beta test. So Takuda-san, could you walk us through how the team is improving performance with the full version?
はい、最初に製品版で目標にしているパフォーマンスについて教えてもらえると思いますのでお願いします。
はい、まず実物を見ていただくのが一番分かりやすいと思いますので、まだ最終バージョンではないんですけれども、プレイステーション5でフレームレート優先モードでのプレイ映像をお持ちしたので、ご覧ください。
Yeah, we've got some slides with some details coming up, but I think first of all, I really want you guys to just get your eyes on a gameplay video to understand where the performance is at. So I've prepared a video that's running on PlayStation 5 in prioritized performance mode. It's not the final version of the game, but it's a more up-to-date version than the one you would have played in the OBT. So let's take a look at that now.
はい、このように、OBT の時よりも綺麗なグラフィックで、60フレーム近くでプレイできる状態になっています。
Yeah, hopefully that gave you an impression of how much better the game is looking already since the OBT. It's running at almost the target of 60 frames per second, so it's looking great, I think.
はい、改めまして目標としているスペックですけれども、PS5 の解像度優先モードでは、4K30fps で安定してプレイできることをターゲットにしています。
So as per the slide we have here, just to talk you through the target numbers that we have. On the PlayStation 5 in the prioritized graphics mode, we're running a rendered output of 4K with a targeted frame rate of 30 frames a second.
フレームレート優先モードではレータリング解像度は異なりますが、60fps で、遊べるようにターゲットしています。
And for prioritized frame rate, that brings the rendering resolution down as you can see, but then the target frame rate gets to 60 frames a second.
OBT では目標のフレームレートに出ていなかった上にですね、フレームレート優先モードでは描画の不具合がありまして、髪の毛とか、羽毛のような表示の時に、ジャギーのようなものが発生するようになってまして、ちょっと綺麗じゃない、状態になっておりました。先ほどご覧いただきましたように製品版の方ではフレームレート含めて改善していますので、ご安心ください。
So the target frame rate that we have here was not being achieved in the OBT build. To be honest, it was an earlier version that wasn't quite as optimized. And there were also some rendering issues with the graphics when using frame priority mode, the prioritized frame rate. A lot of players reported seeing jagged edges on elements such as hair and feathers, the more fine details. As you will have hopefully got an impression of in the video we just showed, this has been greatly improved in the full version, and the frame rate is also hitting close to that target of 60 frames a second.
はい、あとプレイステーション5 Pro エンハンスド対応については、製品版発売時の Day1 パッチにて、対応を予定しています。プレイステーション5 Pro でのゲームプレイは、グラフィック表現がより強化、を予定しておりまして、詳細については今後の情報をお待ちください。
Also, just one thing to confirm is that PlayStation 5 Pro enhanced support is incoming, and it'll be ready with the day one patch on release day of the title next year. That's going to enhance the graphics for PlayStation 5 Pro users, so please stay tuned for more details on that as we get closer to launch.
はい、Xbox シリーズ X と、シリーズ S につきましても、PlayStation 5版と同様な、パフォーマンス向上に取り組んでいます。
Moving on then to Xbox, you can see here that on the Xbox Series X and Series S, we're aiming at similar improvements over the OBT compared to what I just described for the PlayStation 5 as per the slide.
新版でもご利用の環境設定によって変動はありますけれども、パフォーマンスの向上について、同様に取り組んでおりまして、OBT と同じスペックの機材であっても着実にフレームレートなど、向上しています。
Steam is of course a bit more complicated. It varies greatly depending on your own personal rig, your hardware and the settings you have set up, but we are working on improving the performance of that too, and the frame rate and other performance you can expect from the same equipment you might have used in the OBT will be improved for the full version of the game, so please wait a little longer to get a chance to experience that.
あとこれは本当におとつい聞いた最新の情報なんですけれども、推奨スペックとしてご案内しているグラフィックボードについてももう少し下げられる、可能性が、出てきております。正確な情報が、固まり次第公式サイトなどで、アナウンスさせていただきます。
This is actually something that I've literally just confirmed with the team yesterday or the day before, so it's very hot off the press news, but we're looking at hopefully lowering the level of the minimum recommended graphics board specs to allow more players with that level of hardware to play the game. The final details are still being worked on, so I can't share more today, but again, stay tuned to our official channels on our website, and we'll hopefully get more details about that out soon.
That is really, really cool. You know, I mean, Joe and I can both attest that following the OBT, performance was an important topic for the community across all platforms. So it's really, really cool to be able to share the performance and visual improvements for all versions and platforms of the game across the board. So thank you for that, Guda-san. One little question though, because we did see some members of the community, particularly on PC, concerned whether or not they had a powerful enough hardware or rig to run the game on PC. Especially seeing, you know, out there's such a wide range of hardware amongst the gaming community. So is there anything the team are thinking of or looking at doing to help players on PC determine if their rig will run on Sunbreak?
Steam ユーザーはそれぞれのプレイヤーがさまざまな環境で遊んでいると思いますけれども、発売前に自分の環境で、期待できるパフォーマンスを確認したいユーザーがたくさんいると思うんですけど、何かしら対策を考えたりしますでしょうか？
はい、さまざまな改善とか最適化が進んでいる中でですね、その製品版の環境でご自身の機材がどのように機能するかというのは、発売前に知りたいというのは、非常によく、分かっております。現在そうした方に向けてベンチマークとご用意できないか、検討しています。できるできないや時期など決定しましたらまたお知らせいたします。
Yeah, I totally understand the PC players on Steam really want to know before launch if their rig is going to be giving them the performance that they want. While we are, as I said, you know, working to improve the performance greatly before launch, we're considering as well releasing a benchmark tool for Steam players, and that'll let you more directly check how your PC hardware is going to run the game. So that's something that's still in the works at the minute, and if that becomes finalized, again, we'll release further details on that in due course, so stay tuned.
All right, yeah, so we'll await any further details on a potential benchmark tool, and overall those were some really great updates on performance, but let's go ahead and transition to some of the gameplay specific adjustments to either weapon actions and the overall hunting experience. And I think both Jono and I know that one of the biggest topics and concerns from the community were changes to hit stop and the overall impact of weapons. And this was really something that we saw quite a bit of feedback on, looking for a little bit more punch to the different weapons. In our recent round of previews, we actually did confirm that there were some improvements made to this area. So Takuda-san, can you detail what these tweaks are?
はい、パフォーマンスに続けて武器目調整についてですけれども、多くのユーザーから、もう少しパンチが欲しい、手応えを感じたいっていうフィードバックが寄せられていると思うんですけど、これに対してチームの方で 予定している調整などについて教えてもらえますでしょうか。
はい、オープンベータテストでは、いわゆるヒットストップや、サウンドエフェクトが過去作に比べて弱いというご意見いただいております。これらについて OBT では一部対応が漏れていたものもあったんですけど、製品版では、多くの武器種類、特に大技とか決め技を中心に、攻撃の手応えをより感じていただけるような調整をしております。
Yeah, this is, what people refer to as hit stop. It's something that we were aware of with the OBT build. There were certain things we'd already taken care of, actually, and certain things that hadn't yet been done. So when it comes to making those weapons feel more weighty and impactful in terms of hit stop and sound effects, we are planning to make further adjustments in the full version of the game in that area.
一つの例として、調整後の体験の新ため切りの動画をお持ちしましたのでご覧ください。
I've got a video here that we can show in a second, which shows you the true charged slash of the greatsword, and that's how it looks after these adjustments have been made to make these big moves and finishers feel more meaty. So let's show the video, please, and see how that looks.
はい、体験、実は新ため切りダメージ量の方も、増やしてます。ダメージ量に限らずですけど、ヒットエフェクトだったりだとか、ヒットストップについてももろもろ調整を行っていますし、サウンドですね、音についても調整してますので、トータルでヒット感は、向上しています。
So that move that we just saw, the true charge slash, has also actually had its damage output increased, but even for moves where I haven't changed the damage output, I've heard you guys on things like hit stop, on sound effects, how the moves feel to actually use. So those kind of adjustments are being made, not just on the greatsword. I use it as an example here because it's kind of easy to understand, but across the board on all weapon types.
はい、ヒットストップに関してはですね、モンスターハンターワールドをリリースした当初には、海外のユーザーを中心に、ヒットストップが強すぎるとか、重すぎるみたいなご意見をすごくいただいたんですけれども、今回モンスターハンターワイルズのオープンベータですと逆に弱いというご意見もたくさんいただきまして、モンスターハンターの持ち味であるこの、重みのあるアクションという感覚が世界中の方に受け入れられ始めているんだなということも感じまして、感慨深くもありました。
It was really interesting actually for me to receive this feedback on the beta. I'm thinking back to Monster Hunter World, which I also worked on, and back then there was a lot of player feedback, especially outside Japan, where players felt that the game was actually too weighty, that the animations were too slow, and that's completely the opposite of what we heard this time, where people were saying the Wild's OPT, everything felt a bit too light and floaty and weaker. So I'm taking that as a positive, where I feel like in the years between Monster Hunter World coming out and Monster Hunter Wild's OBT, players around the world have gotten used to that meaty, weighty hit stop action that is kind of one of the hallmarks of Monster Hunter. So knowing that they've accepted that and they wanted it back based on the OBT is actually something that I think is really interesting, and also it's really nice for me to hear.
No, that's really, really cool. I'm looking forward to seeing those meaty chops and big bonks come February. And obviously, we've spoken about how weapon interactions with monsters have been adjusted, but we're also looking at friendly fire and how that works, right? I understand that this was actually something as well that the team were looking into and considering before the open beta test went live.
はい、フレンドリーファイアの機能について確かにオープンベータテスト、配信前からも検討されていたと聞いてるんですけど、こちらは OBT を受けてどのような調整を予定しているのでしょうか。
はい、ゲームズコーンや TGS の、私有ロムでは、ガンランスの流撃砲などによって、仲間が吹っ飛ばされる、いわゆるフレンドリーファイアがありましたけれども、OBT のタイミングでは多くの武器でそれらを緩和しました。
Yeah, this is something that, as you said, before even the OBT came out, we had our first playable globally at Gamescom earlier in the year. Then we had Tokyo Game Show. And the adjustments that we started to make for friendly fire were already present in those builds. So, for example, the Wyvern Fire of the Gunlance is something that we'd already toned down the effect even before the OBT started.
OBT の時点でもハンマーの勝ち上げなど一部フレンドリーファイアが残ってしまったものもあったんですけど、それらも製品版の方では、修正予定となります。
That said, as a lot of players will have noticed in the OBT, there were some friendly fire things that we hadn't handled yet. So upswing attacks on the hammer in particular, I think were causing a lot of people to be thrown around the place. And that's something that we're looking to get into a better place and fix it up for the final game.
またサンブレイクの方で実装されました、ダメージリアクションを無効化する干渉樹、といった装飾品も実装予定です。
And just to mention as well, something that wouldn't have applied during the OBT, but the shockproof jewel, which you might remember from recently Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak, is going to be in the full game, and that will further help you nullify those damage reactions.
調整後のハンマーの勝ち上げの動画も持ってきましたので、ご覧ください。
I've got another video with me today, so if we can please show that, then you should get an idea of how the hammer upswing looks after these adjustments have been made. So let's take a look.
Yeah, the example is really great at kind of showing side by side the changes that have been made there. So, I think, with friendly fire, this is one of those changes where, there's a lot of different players a lot of different types of players that it may impact. So, Takuda-san, can you talk a little bit more about the intention behind making this change?
フレンドリーファイアですとプレイヤーの意見も分かれる仕様だと思うんですけど、徳田さんの今回変更を入れた意図についてもう少し詳しく教えてもらえますでしょうか。
はい、フレンドリーファイアの軽減は残念なに思っている方もいるトピックだと、こちらも認識しています。今回ですね、ガンランスの流撃砲の範囲を結構思い切って広げたんですけど、この範囲で、ぶっ飛ばしを残してしまうと、マルチプレイですごく大きな、支障になってしまいます。
Yeah, I know what you mean because friendly fire is one of those features I think some players enjoy. The bit of the chaos, and they might find it disappointing to hear that it's being reduced, but it's all part of my overall balancing sort of approach. So to take the Gunlance Wyvern Fire as an example, the range of that attack has actually been greatly expanded with Monster Hunter Wilds, and that meant that just the sheer range at which friendly fire could occur was kind of becoming something of a hindrance to having an effective multiplayer hunt.
こういう行動はルールを理解しているプレイヤー同士なら楽しく感じていただける要素にもなり得るんですけれども、クロスプレイだったり、球団集合によって、幅広いユーザーの方がマルチプレイする機会というのがすごく増えている中で、初心者のユーザーの方がルールがわからないままぶっ飛ばしてしまったりだとか、特にそういう要素があることによってマルチプレイを避けてしまうようなことを、避けたいと考えて、今回こうした実装をしております。
I think that kind of scrappy, chaotic feel that you get from friendly fire is something that players who understand it and they know how to avoid it or when it's going to happen, those people can have an understanding with each other and enjoy that. But we've now got crossplay and we've got a wider range than ever of experience levels of hunters joining the game. And I wanted to avoid a scenario where this level of, extra range attacks causing friendly fire would mean that maybe less experienced players would end up knocking everyone around beyond the point where it's still fun, or they might get knocked around and not understand why it's happening and not find that enjoyable, and then they'd end up avoiding going online and playing multiplayer with other players. So it's really part of my intention to make sure that everyone can enjoy multiplayer together, and that meant making the decision on how to adjust friendly fire.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, it's making it more approachable for new players and less frustrating for experienced players who are playing alongside these new players joining the community. And kind of moving on from that as well, something that actually Joe and I encountered ourselves and what we saw within the community and content creators was that during the open beta test, they felt that monsters move locations way more often than they expected. Was this intentional?
ジョノとジョーもご自身で遊んだ時に気づいた仕様なんですけれども、モンスターが割と頻繁にエリア移動する仕様になってたと思うんですけど、コミュニティのフィードバックもたくさんある仕様だったと思いますので、こちらについてはどれだけ意図的なものだったでしょうか。
はい、OBT ではですね、そのプログラム的な不具合とですね、調整不足の両方が重なりまして、モンスターのエリア移動が、頻繁に発生していました。
Yeah, the actual truth is that there was a bit of a bug or glitch in the open beta test build, which meant that monsters were moving between areas more frequently than we intended. So the behavior you guys noticed in the open beta test build isn't something that was finally fully adjusted to where we wanted it to be.
製品版では、モンスターハンターワールドに近いような移動頻度になるように調整を入れています。
So yeah, we worked on that since the open beta test build was created, and the final version should be more close in feeling to Monster Hunter World in terms of how often you feel the monsters are moving around.
Got it. Yeah. So even though that the amount of frequency that a monster might move locations has been toned down a little bit, sometimes a monster moving locations significantly is kind of like a way of expressing its personality. So are there still some situations where a monster might move significantly?
これでも製品版ではエリア間の移動をする場合があると理解していいんですね。
もちろんモンスターがフィールドの中でどんどんこう移動していって、それを追い詰めていってハンティングするというのはモンスターハンターの、醍醐味の一つでもありますので、モンスターは移動していきます。
Yeah, that's right. It's one of the sort of key features of Monster Hunter is that you're chasing these monsters around these vast environments. So it's not like they're never going to move anywhere and you're just going to be stuck in one place to hunt them. You're still going to have that feeling of the chase where they move between different parts of the field as the hunt progresses.
またですね、特に生態系の上位に属するようなモンスター、その強いモンスターはですね、ベースキャンプから離れた場所、フィールドの奥深くに巣を構えていることが多くあります。今回はフィールドが、広大になっているということもありまして、いろんな緩和処理は入れているんですけれども、それでも瀕死移動などの際に、大きく移動するということがあります。
Also, the maps are much bigger in this game than any previous Monster Hunter, and that means there's more turf to cover. And when it comes to things like the monsters who are at the top of the food chain in a particular map, their nests or their home turf within the map can be pretty deep into the area, and it can be some distance to cover. So if you get them to a weakened state and they're doing the thing where they limp back to their nest to try and recover, that's still going to be an occasion where you're going to have some ground to cover in order to chase them and find them again.
そうした場合はですね、その狩りたいモンスターの生息域だったり移動ルートに合わせた場所に簡易キャンプを立てて、ファストトラベルなどを使って先回りするような、使い方というのもすごく有効になります。
I would recommend when that happens in the full game that you can actually use the pop-up camp feature to its fullest. So if you're aware of where a particular monster's nest is going to be in the map, and if it's quite a distance from other areas, you can go ahead and sort of do a recce and scout it out and put a pop-up camp there in advance, so that when that monster starts to get weakened and try to return to its nest, you can fast travel to the pop-up camp and get there quickly.
So a little bit of planning, a little bit of prep, and it will pay off in the hunt, which is always handy. And, moving on, we've already covered a lot of juicy changes. We've been getting stuck straight in. So let's kind of move over to adjustments to something that's really important and helps really define a hunter's identity in game, and that we're all very passionate about: our weapons. So we know many people are really interested in this. Takura-san, in our recent previews, the team showed off some changes to the 𝐂𝐴𝐺𝐵. But that's not the only weapon. Multiple weapons have received adjustments, but a few in particular, like the aforementioned 𝐂𝐴𝐺𝐵, have received the most attention, right?
武器の調整についてですけれども、プレビューのインタビューなどで徳田さんは特に総中根などの武器がかなり OBT に比べて大きく調整が入っているというふうにコメントをいただいていると思うんですけど、こちらについてもう少し詳細に教えてもらえますでしょうか。
はい、特に総中根、ランス、スラッシュアックス、片手剣については製品版とかなり違いを感じられるような、武器種になっています。それらを中心に調整内容をご紹介できればと思います。
Yeah, the 𝐂𝐡𝐚𝐭𝐆𝐏 is one of several weapons, such as the lance, the switch axe, and the sword and shield, which I think players will, if you play the OBT version and then you play the full game, you're going to notice maybe the biggest differences and feel like we've made the most adjustments to those weapons in particular, although we have made adjustments to all the weapons. So I'd like to take the chance to go through a few of those details with you.
はい、総中根についてはまずは動画を見ていただければと思います。
So if we can run the video we've prepared of the insect glaive, let's take a look at that first.
はい、このようにまず武闘跳躍が、追加されております。
That's right, vaulting dance is back.
総中根についてはゲームズコンや TGS の私有の段階で、特にこの総中根使いの方々から、アイデンティティとも言えるような、武闘跳躍を、ないことについてですね、非常に残念がる声というのをたくさんいただいてましたので、OBT では間に合わなかったんですけども、製品版の方では、武闘跳躍追加しております。
So this is something I was actually aware of even before the feedback from the open beta test back at our Gamescom and Tokyo Game Show exhibitions of gameplay. We had our, insect glaive users, our bug rod mains complaining that the vaulting dance was missing, and it's one of the iconic moves of that particular weapon. So yeah, I'm happy to confirm that vaulting dance makes its return in the full version of Monster Hunter Wilds.
またですね、吸収切りの出始めのところに、相殺効果がついていたりだとか、エキスを取った時の、効果などが OBT から、追加で対応を行っていまして、これらによって、立ち回りの幅がすごく広がっています。
As you can see on the slide, we've got a few other adjustments being made. One of them is that the descending slash now has an offset effect added at the beginning of that move. And we also have additional effects happening with the different extracts that you have during the course of the action. So those are going to improve the feel of the insect glaive too.
はい。ですその吸収切りのための部分の、操作っていうのが、押しづらいというご意見も、すごく多くいただいておりました。
One thing I wanted to cover additionally was that some players said that the controls for charging up the descending thrust were a little bit too difficult, or they felt tricky to operate in the heat of the hunt.
僕自身も押しづらいなと感じる部分もありましたので、何かできないか検討や相談っていうのを進めていたんですけれども、慣れてくるとですね、この貯めることによる遊びの広がりっていうのも確かにあるなというふうにも感じていることから、あとそれを回収するコストとももろもろ天秤にかけていった結果、今回はその試操作に関しては残すことに、しました。
I took that feedback on board, and I tried it out in the game myself. And I did somewhat agree that it could be tricky to pull that off right in the middle of things, but we always have to weigh up when we're going to make these kind of modifications to a weapon, what the implications are for its playstyle as a whole. We have to balance the idea of changing that with, how it might play the way it is. So after many discussions with the team, I actually decided to keep this one the way it is. I think that it is one of the trickier things to pull off, but it's sort of a bit of a rewarding bit of depth to the gameplay of the insect glaive. If you can get used to that and learn when to use the charge, you can really deepen your play style. So that's something that we're not adjusting this time, although we did hear your voices on that.
ですね、メディアプレビューツアーに、来られた、総中根使いのライターの方はですね、触っていただいて、最高の総中根になってるじゃないかとすごく喜んで、くれましたので、ぜひ製品版の方、お待ちいただければと思います。
Yeah, there was actually one journalist who was in Osaka for our preview last month, and they're an insect glaive main user, and they said that this is the best insect glaive ever in Monster Hunter history. So you can take that on board and look forward to the full version of the weapon in the final version of the game.
Yeah, amazing. It's so great seeing Vaulting Dance back. I know that it's been very, very highly requested from the community. And I think there's a lot of people out there, including myself and members of the community, who doubted that it was something that could even be added back into the game. So it's so great to see it back and to see it in action. So moving on from the Encyclopedia, I know there's other weapons we want to touch on. We mentioned in the previews that the Lance would be seeing some significant changes. So can you take us through those?
先にプレビューの段階で確かにランスも大幅に調整を入れる予定になっているというふうに徳田さんがコメントしてたと思うんですけど、その詳細について教えてもらえますでしょうか。
はい。ランスは、多様なガードと、細やかな移動行動を駆使していて、過去シリーズよりもモンスターに張り付いていける選択肢を増やしたかったんですけれども、逆にそのモンスターの行動を見て待つ選択肢っていうのがなくなった結果、かえって行動の選択肢が狭まって、同じ行動を繰り返してしまうような、ちょっと単調なプレーにつながってしまう部分っていうのがありました。
Yeah, the Lance was something where the effects of the adjustments we made were somewhat on the unintentional side. So I wanted to add a variety of different options for guarding and more fine footwork movement options. And the idea was to increase the tool set of things the players had available when they're using the Lance. But I think that the unintentional effect of that was that players weren't able to do the classic Lance move of being able to wait it out and see what the monster is going to do next and then respond to that in kind. And I think that we ultimately ended up, unfortunately, narrowing the options available, and some players even went so far as to say that the Lance action felt monotonous because ultimately with the tools available, they still ended up repeating the same actions over and over again.
大きな変更点としましては、過去作のカウンター好きを、ガード中のためカウンターとして、復活させました。
So in response to that, one thing that I've done is take the counter thrust move, which was a move that was available in past games with the Lance, and sort of resurrected that in a new form as what we're now calling the charge counter, and that's something that you can use while guarding as well.
これによってカウンターで待つ、選択肢を作りつつ、さらに大きなモンスターの攻撃に対しては、ガードからパワーガードの方に派生していって、受けた攻撃によってため段階が変わる、新アクションっていうのも、足していってますので、そうしたものも含めた反撃の選択肢というのを取れるように、しています。
So the addition of this move, as well as the other adjustments that we've made, some of which you can see here, which includes a new move that can be chained into from both Perfect Guard and Power Guard, means I think Lance players will appreciate the ability to read the monster's movements, and you can choose your counter attack style, and you can even do a Power Guard that will now charge even more quickly or to higher levels if you successfully defend against more powerful monster attacks. So that sort of wait, read and counter style of the Lance I think is going to be getting much better than you might have experienced in the open beta.
その他混乱だったり暴発が起こりやすいような発生をなくしたりだとか、連携中に発生するガードダッシュのキャンセルのタイミングを早くするなど、過去作でできたことっていうのは、なるべくフォローしながらやれることの幅っていうのを広げる調整をしています。僕はもちろん、ランス界の藤岡さんも、結構、じっくり触っていまして、かなり感触良くなってきています。
There's also another variety of adjustments that we've made to the Lance in conjunction with Mr. Fujioka, the executive director and art director, who, as you guys know, is a Lance main, so he takes the Lance very seriously. And I worked together with him on these. So I wanted to expand the range of what you can do based on past titles. That has included actually removing some moves that you tended to chain into only on accident, and it would kind of cause confusion and mess up your combos. So I've sort of refined the moveset a little bit in those ways, while at the same time speeding up the cancellation timing of guard dashes that are chained into during combos. So I think that these changes, if you trust me and Mr. Fujioka, are going to make the lads feel better than ever.
はい、動画の方もお持ちしたので、ご覧ください。
I've got a video for this too, so if we can run that, then you can see what I'm talking about.
And there we have it, Lance getting straight to the point, as always. So hopefully our Lance mains out there, that has put a smile on your face. And for those of you that have never tried the weapon before, hopefully that's, sparked a bit of interest for you to go check it out come February. But now to move on from the Lance, let's talk about the Switch Axe, which apparently has been made much stronger than it was in the open beta test. Chikuda-san, can you tell us a bit more about that, please?
次にランツから移してスラッシュアックスも OBT の時から大きく変わってると聞いてるんですけど、詳細お願いします。
はい、スラッシュアックスに関しては、そのオノモードでゲージを貯めて剣モードで移していくような基本的なサイクル自体は変えていませんが、オノモードでのちょっとためにくさみたいなものは多少緩和しつつ、剣モードでの攻撃をゲージ消費に見合ったような威力とか手応えに調整を行っています。
Yeah, so with the Switch Axe, of course, the basic loop of charging up the Axe mode and then releasing in the Sword mode is the same. That's kind of what people expect from the weapon, but I understand from feedback that some players thought it was too difficult to get the Axe mode charged up, and that was something that I wanted to alleviate, so that difficulty has been adjusted. At the same time, the Sword mode has been adjusted to be this feeling more powerful and more responsive to match that gauge consumption.
特にフルリリーススラッシュは、手応えも威力も、最終発生型に見合った性能に、向上させています。
One move in particular that should be feeling a lot better now is the full release slash. It's been improved both in terms of its power output and its feeling, and it just feels like a much more appropriate finisher move in terms of how great it feels to pull off.
またカウンター切りの使い勝手を上げたりだとか、集中弱点攻撃の後隙を短くするなど、使いづらかったコードを少しずつ調整していって、全体的なそういうさというのを向上させています。
There were also some moves that the feedback from the player base was that they were a little bit too difficult to use. So using the counter rising slash in sword mode is something that's been made more usable, and I've also looked to shorten the animation lock period after using a focus strike with this weapon, so hopefully those things make it feel more usable.
はい、こちらも動画をご覧ください。
I've got a video for this one too, so let's take a look.
Yeah, the changes to Switch Axe are looking really great. As somebody who really likes the new moveset in Monster Hunter Wilds, these tweaks just take it to the next level. So I'm really excited about that, and maybe I'll switch to the Switch Axe. Sorry. Well, next up we've got Sword and Shield. Jono, I know this is very near and dear to your heart as your main. Tokuda-san, can you take us through all of the tweaks here?
はい、次にご存知のようにジョノがメインに使っている武器でもある片手剣ですけど、こちらの調整についてはいかがでしょうか。
はい、まずですね、過去作とちょっとボタンは違うんですけれども、ガード中に切り上げですね、のアクションを復活させました。
Yeah, so for the Sword and Shield, one thing we heard your voice very clearly on was that the loss of the ability to use Rising Slash while guarding was being majorly felt, so that's back, and you can now perform that move while guarding again.
また通常攻撃だったり、ジャストラッシュといった、各種攻撃の威力を、上げていったりだとか、各種行動のレスポンスの方も、向上させて、さらにバックステップと滑り込み切りの回避性能を強化するなど、全体的なこの威力と、レスポンス手触りを向上を、させています。
And there's also various improvements, as you can see on the next couple of points here, being made to the weapon's sort of feel and also attack output. So normal attacks and the perfect rush have had their parameters improved. The responsiveness of your sort of more bread and butter mobile combos like the chop and side slash combo have been improved, and same goes for guard slash and perfect rush. And then finally the backstep and the sliding swipe have had their effectiveness when it comes to evasion improved as well. So lots of changes all across the board for Sword and Shield.
こちらも動画をご覧ください。
Yep, you guessed it, another video for this weapon, so let's run it and see how it looks.
My goodness. To my fellow Sword and Shield enjoyers, we are truly eating good in Wilds. Those changes look delicious. What can I say? And for those that haven't tried Sword and Shield yet, here's a really good excuse to give it a go. But enough of me gushing about the Sword and Shield, because I could do that for the next hour. You know, there are other weapons too that have had some adjustments, maybe not as extensive as the four we've shown so far, but many have received tweaks. So, Tokuda-san, could you please take us through these at a broader level?
こちらの4つの武器ほど、大規模な変更ではないかもしれないんですけれども、全体的な武器の調整について教えてもらえますでしょうか。
はい、先ほどの4つの武器も含めてになるんですが、まずその属性値だったりとか、スキルの効果も踏まえたエンドコンテンツを見越した数値調整というのを、全武器種、広く、行っています。その過程で、意図したバランスになっていないものだったりとか、意図しない武器格差みたいなものが、生まれていた部分については調整を予定しています。
Yeah, as you said, all the weapons are receiving general wide-ranging adjustments to everything from their skills, their elemental values. I don't want there to be unintentional weapon tiering happening. I want to balance the weapon lineup so that everything has a valid place and everything is a viable choice. Not just for playing the full game when it comes out, but going through to completing the game and then moving on to the end game content. I know that these balance adjustments need to stand up for many hours of gameplay from you guys, and that's the intention with this overall balancing approach I have.
基本的には、各武器種が持つコンセプトとか触り心地が実現できているかっていうのを重要視した調整を行っていまして、強いものを下げるというよりはどちらかというと低いものを上げていきながら、武器種間の格差もできるだけなくしていくような、方向性で、調整しています。
And my general concept is that I want each weapon to feel true to its own unique concept, because each of them has a place in the lineup of 14 weapons. In order to do that, I don't want to lower the high values to make everything meet in the middle. I actually want to raise up the lower values to make the weapons that were feeling less powerful feel more viable and going toe-to-toe with the other weapons in the lineup. So that's kind of my approach.
はい、その、主だった例として弓を挙げますけれども、弓はシルベの矢と、刺してそこに対して矢が飛んでいく、機能なんですけど、それと集中弱点攻撃の方にダメージのソースが、かなり偏っていたんですけれども、その部分も、通常攻撃だったりだとか局射のようなものの威力を上げつつ、さらにそれらの行動のつながりだったりレスポンスとかを向上させて、その他の行動でもしっかりダメージを取れるような、調整を行っています。
As on the slide here, the bow is a good example of this kind of general adjustment. I think that in the version that you guys would have played in the beta, the damage output was getting pretty biased towards using the tracer shots combined with the focus strike attacks. And this is something that I wanted to adjust. So again, as I said, rather than bringing those down, what I've done is bring up the null shots and the arc shot power, make those attacks more viable, and at the same time, general responsiveness has been improved across the board for the bow, including transitions and chaining between different attacks. So that makes it feel like a more cohesive, true to the bow concept type weapon.
また集中弱点攻撃で、複数の傷だったりシルベの矢をまとめてロックオンして破壊することができたんですけども、傷については一つ一つロックオンする形に変更を行っています。
One more thing to mention is that as of the beta, the focus strike targeting capability was locking onto multiple wounds more or less simultaneously at the same time. And I've rebalanced this now so that whenever you try to lock on to multiple wounds, they'll lock on one at a time with a brief delay in between each one. So that's another balance adjustment that's been made here.
はい、弓についても動画を用意しましたので、ご覧ください。
And you can see that and more in this video. Let's run it.
このようにですね、単なる下方修正にならないように、武器の魅力だったりユーザーの選択肢の幅が広がるようにことを意識しながら、全ての武器の調整を行っています。
Yeah, hopefully when you watch that you get a sense of what I meant, which was I don't want to just bring the powerful aspects of weapons or the more powerful weapons down to the same level. I want to make adjustments to each weapon to make every single weapon feel like a viable choice in the lineup of weapons in Monster Hunter, and that players have lots to choose from and everything has its place.
Yeah, I really love that philosophy behind all the balancing changes and the improvements. And I know one weapon that I think we would be remiss if we didn't bring up, and a lot of people are really passionate about, is the hunting horn. Could you talk about some of the changes that the hunting horn is receiving?
狩猟笛は特に多くのユーザーからフィードバックがあった武器だと思うんですけど、こちらの最終的な仕様変更などはいかがでしょうか？
そうですね、狩猟笛の基本的な、メカニクスというか、そういうものについては、ユーザーさんも僕も含めて、結構気に入って、います。なんですけれども、サブ武器としての性能というのがちょっと、強すぎる面がありましたので、そのあたりは手を加えようと思っています。
Hunting horn is a weapon that I myself really enjoy playing, and I think we've heard from lots of players that they find it really fun. It's a very viable main weapon. So actually the adjustments that I want to make for Monster Hunter Wilds based on the beta were about how it felt a bit too strong as a sub-weapon.
OBT ではですね、攻撃力アップ小の戦慄効果までしかなかったので、そこまで問題にならなかったんですけれども、製品版の方では攻撃力アップ大の戦慄効果があったりだとか、あとそれらの効果の時間を長くするスキルなどもありましたので、サブ武器としてかなりちょっと強い面が、ありました。
It wasn't too bad in the OBT because being a limited slice of the gameplay, the melodies that were available for the hunting horn only actually went up to attack up S. But when you take that into the full game and you're going all the way up to attack up L, it just meant that the melody effects were too overpowered and it just became too much of an obvious meta choice to have the hunting horn as a backup weapon because of how powerful the parameters were whenever you were buffing not just yourself and but your whole party.
でですね、自分強化の戦慄効果のパラメーターというのを速度のアップも含めて底上げしつつ、他の、プレイヤーへの戦慄効果のパラメーターだったりだとか、狩猟笛から他の武器種に変更したときにその、効果時間延長のスキルの効果がなくなるなどの調整を行っていって、サポート武器としての価値は残しつつもバランスを整えるような形にしています。
So yeah, with a view to rebalancing that, what I've actually done is the melody effects when you strengthen yourself, when you buff yourself, have actually been increased, been made more powerful. But conversely, the effect on others has been decreased to rebalance its focus. The other thing that has changed is that when you change back from the hunting horn to the other weapon that you have with you, that's the amount of time that the melody effect was being applied and for an extended amount of time. That skill has been adjusted so that when you change back to your other weapon, it's not going to hang around for as long whenever you've got the buff applied to other players. So I think that those balances still make it a valuable choice as a support weapon, but it just makes it less OP, to use the community phrase.
Yeah, hopefully that's music to the ears of our duders out there, you know, putting respect on the weapon for those that main it and are proud of the tunes they bring to the hunt. And kind of moving on from that a little bit and moving away from weapons. Well, actually, I say that we're moving further into weapons here. We've got some juicy details to go into. Earlier on in the stream, you mentioned to Guda-san in the final version that balance will be adjusted to take into the account the existence of skills that were not included in the open beta test. So that does mean that in Monster Hunter Wilds, the skill building system has changed a lot from what we know, right?
先ほどOBT に入ってなかったようなスキルの存在なども考慮して製品版の全コンテンツを通してバランスを、検討されているとのことでしたが、確かにワイルズでスキルの仕組み自体は大きく変わっていると思うんですけど、そちらについてちょっと詳細に説明してもらえますでしょうか？
はい、OBT を受けた、挑戦内容とちょっと話が、変わりますけれども、インタビューなど以外ではちょっとこれまできちんと説明できていなかった部分でもありますので、ご紹介させていただきます。
Yeah, this is something that isn't strictly speaking a OBT feedback response, but it's something that I think I've mentioned a few times in interviews that have gone out with the previews, but I want to take the chance on today's stream just to kind of really make it clear exactly what the implications of this new system are. So let's take a look at an example with this screenshot.
今まではその防具のパーツに装備のスキルが、ついていましたけれども、特定の武器種にしか効果がないようなタイプのスキルが入っていると、その防具に合う武器種を選ぶしかなくなってしまったりだとか、切り合わせがしにくくなってしまうみたいなことが、発生している部分がありました。
So on previous titles, the place where you put equipment skills has always been the armor rather than the weapon, right? So that meant if you needed to equip skills that were sort of specific to a certain weapon or category of weapons, there was sort of an inevitability about certain skills and certain armor gear being the kind of only viable choice whenever you were going to go out with that particular weapon equipped, and that kind of limited, I think, the players' freedom to choose what exactly it was they wanted to wear.
今作ではメイン武器とサブ武器を切り替えられるようになっていますので、これまでの仕組み、スキルの仕組みですと武器を切り替えた時に、せっかくのスキルビルドが無駄になってしまう場面が、出てきます。なので、今作では例えば攻撃とかガード性能のような、武器に紐づくようなスキルは武器側に、つく形にして、例えば早食いのような、補助的なスキルについては防具側につけるような形に、変更しております。
The other implication of the fact that in Monster Hunter Wilds you can bring a main weapon and a sub weapon was that your carefully chosen skill build on your armor would be completely wasted and be for naught whenever you change weapon. Suddenly all of those skills that you'd equipped on the armor might not be relevant depending on what the second weapon was. So the system now has changed so that skills that are mostly tied to weapon functions such as attack boost and guard are now attached to the weapons themselves directly. And then other more supplementary skills such as speed eating are still attached to armor. And by separating out where the skills go, it means that your skill build will actually make a lot more sense even as you change weapons throughout the hunt.
Yeah, so this is a pretty significant change to how players are going to be able to build their sets, and hopefully it'll result in, lots of variety in terms of the different weapons people use and different armor sets. But one question I had is, what happens when weapons are upgraded? Do these skills disappear, or what happens with them?
このシステムになって、例えば武器を強化して派生で新しい武器にしたときに、自分その入ってたスキルがなくなったりすることはあるのでしょうか？
はい、ここちょっと分かりにくいところなのですごくいい質問なんですけども、同じ武器派生の強化でスキルが消えることということは、ありません。
Yeah, that's a great question and maybe a concern people might have had if it wasn't super clear how the system works. So it's a good chance to be very clear about it. Skills will never disappear from a weapon whenever you upgrade it within the same weapon tree.
今画面に映っているのが、ホープブレード2で、砥石高速化のスキルが、ついているかと思います。
So as you can see here on this screenshot, the Hope Blade 2 in the equipment info panel, you can see that it's got the speed sharpening equipment skill on it.
これを強化、したスライドに変えていただきますと、
When you upgrade that, it changes to a different weapon, and I think we have a second screenshot prepared, which we can switch to now.
ホープブレード3に強化した形になると、砥石高速化のスキルはついたまま、見切りの、スキルが新たに追加されています。
As you can see with this screenshot of the Hope Blade 3, the equipment skill speed sharpening has been retained, and we've got an additional skill called Critical Eye, which has been included with the upgraded weapon.
ですので、その、スキル自体はなくならずに、別のものがついたり強化されたりしていきながら、武器派生を、強化していくことができます。
So as you can see, the skills didn't reduce, and some can be added, and also the level of existing skills might be increased the more you upgrade the weapon within the tree.
また後半の、派生の武器になるほどですね、武器の方にもスロットが空いていて、そこに装飾品を入れることによって、自分好みのスキルビルドを楽しむことも、可能になります。
Also, in addition to these built-in equipment skills that are baked into each level of the weapon, there are, of course, decoration slots. So the further you go down the weapon tree, the more decoration slots will open up on the weapon at the higher levels, and that's going to let you create your own skill build to your own liking and combine the pre-built ones with the ones you add later using decorations.
I think that is really, really exciting. I mean, having the skill set this way means that, you know, as we mentioned earlier, that there's going to be far less instances of there being a particular weapon that is the best for, you know, multiple situations. And when you're building your sets, you know, your weapon will directly contribute to that. And also, you know, you can switch between your weapons without it, you know, neutering your armor set that you've kind of been meticulously building. So I'm really, really excited to see, one, what the community discover, and two, like how they use it. And, you know, I can't wait to see what the different sword and shields have as well. So that's really, really cool. And now, you know, let's move on a bit. Let's have a little chat about a few other things that we've seen in the beta and things like that. And there's one thing that kind of really stood out to Joe and I, and for anyone in the community who frequents the different Monster Hunter subreddits that are out there. And one of them was the most beautiful collage. It was a collage of many hunters using shielded weapons, pulling the biggest frowns as they guarded against the wrath of monsters, kind of like a kind of face. Now, you know, what's the situation with that? What's going on there, Takuda-san?
今、ジョノまで変顔してると思うんですけど、最後の質問タイムに入らせていただきます。多くのプレイヤーが気づいた仕様としては、肩を構えたときに、ハンターが若干変顔になり気味だったんですけど、こちらは意図的な仕様なのか、修正されるものなのか教えてください。
はい、変顔にしたかったわけじゃなくて、武器を構えた時にその気張ったような顔に、したかったんですけど、まさかちょっとあそこまで気張った顔になってるとはちょっと想定外なところがありましたので、直します。
Yeah, thank you for your very demonstrative version of the face. My intention was to show that when someone grabs tight onto a shield to guard an attack, that they would sort of be, you know, grimacing or have an intensity to the expression, but the way it turned out wasn't really what I wanted it to be. So we're going to change that in the final game and have it look a little bit less weird and a little bit more cool and intense.
Well, I'm a little bit sad that it's being changed because it was extremely funny. Totally understand that, you know, we want our hunters to be immersed in the world, and that's one of those things that might take you right out of it. So I want to switch gears a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about multiplayer. We did hear some feedback from players that they were a little bit confused on the different ways to get into multiplayer, and just you know, just weren't quite sure how to play with their friends easily. So Takuda-san, can you touch just a little bit on multiplayer and matching up with friends and how that's going to work in the full game?
変顔がなくなること自体は個人的には少し寂しい思いもあるんですけど、確かにかっこいい顔にしてもらえるんだったら製品版を楽しみにしますということです。次の質問になりますが、オープンベータで多くのプレイヤーからちょっとマルチプレイの仕様について、どういうふうにやればいいかわからない、つながり方わからないこの仕様についてどう使ったらいいかちょっと使いづらく感じた人もいたと思うんですけど、この辺について、製品版の仕様や、使い方のアドバイスを込みでアドバイスをお願いします。
はい、まず製品版では、ロビーの ID を教え合った人しか入れない、プライベートロビーという機能だったりとか、特定のサークルの人たちだけが集まれるサークルロビーのような、友達と会いやすい機能っていうのが追加されます。
So firstly, in the full game, there will be multiplayer features that weren't included in the open beta test, which I think will make it easier to get together with just the people you want to play with. So one of those will be private lobbies, which, as the name implies, they'll have a lobby ID, and only those people who you've shared the ID with can join in. We'll also see the return of the squad system, and squad lobbies will be available only to your squad members, and that's going to make it so that you can, you know, have your friends get together really easily.
あとですね、OBT ではリンクパーティーや環境リンクといった機能が、入っていたんですけれども、これらは複数のフィールドが、ある状態で、各メンバーの環境が変化していく中で、有効に機能するようなものなので、一つのフィールドで変化の幅が少ない OBT だとちょっと分かりにくい機能に、なっていました。製品版の方では、リリース後にしかるべきタイミングで、情報を、発信していく予定になります。
On the flip side of that, there were features that were in the OBT that I think maybe didn't really, players didn't have a chance to really fully understand them, given the fact that the OBT was such a limited slice of the game. What I'm talking about is the link parties, and also in particular the environmental link feature. These are designed for the full game, where across multiple different maps, each of which has varying weather conditions across different phases. If you imagine getting online, you and Jono and Joe want to play together with me, and we're all in different areas and we're not synchronized at all, so choosing which monster to hunt or whatever else might be difficult. The environmental link means we can kind of settle on a state for the game to be in and have that synchronized and make our gameplay go a lot smoother. With the OBT, you only had the windward plains and a limited amount of changeable extreme weather conditions, and I think a lot of players were a bit sort of having a question mark about what the functionality of these features were, but trust me, it'll make a lot more sense when the full game comes out, and we'll provide more details on how to use those effectively when the time comes.
No, I appreciate the details. I mean, it's really cool to hear that, you know, you'll be able to have a lot more control over the multiplayer experience you want. So if you do want to play with just your pals, you can. If you want to play with your squad, or if you want to play with anyone in the world who's also playing, you can. So it's great to know that those options are going to be there for our community. And obviously, you know, talking about multiplayer, Monster Hunter Wilds takes the multiplayer experience in Monster Hunter to a whole new level, the biggest it's ever been, with 100 player lobbies, and camps that can hold up to 16 hunters at a time, which is fantastic. The kind of interactions we're all going to be able to have and that we had in the OBT. Obviously, but with that though, there comes a lot of chatter, a lot of stickers. And if someone's being a bit cheeky, they can, you know, spam in stickers and excitement and things like that. You know, so for those of us that, you know, might want a slightly more relaxed public multiplayer experience around, you know, chat and stickers, you know, what's the situation there going forward?
マルチプレイの設定面といえばですけど、多くのプレイヤーから寄せてもらっているフィードバックとしては、これだけたくさんの人数のプレイヤーが同時につながっているロビーになってしまうと、どうしてもチャットの方でメッセージやステッカーがバババってちょっとスパムのように入ってきてしまって、落ち着けないようなロビーになってしまっているという、フィードバックが多かったんですけど、こちらについて何か対策を考えられたりしますでしょうか？
はい、まず製品版の方では、特定の人の、発言を、自分の画面でミュートに、指定することが、できます。
Oh yeah, firstly in the full game, if one particular person is blowing up in the lobby chat, you'll be able to mute them, so that's a very targeted feature you'll be able to make use of.
またですね、クエストだったり、リンクパーティーを組んだ時にはチャットチャンネルが自動で切り替わって、ロビーメンバーのチャット通知がされなくなるなど、いくつか対策を、入れていっています。
Also, we're going to adjust how the chat channels work whenever you do something like start a quest or a link party. What's going to happen is that the chat will automatically switch over to just the participants of that quest or that party, and you'll stop being notified of the general lobby chatter. And I think that will improve the feeling of whenever you start something with just your friends or other players, that it limits the range of who you're going to hear stuff from.
On it, yeah. The sticker spam in particular was something that I got a few messages about, and I watched a few streams during the open beta, and that was definitely something that people would have liked to adjust. So it's great to hear that's happening. Something that I was really pleasantly surprised by when booting up the open beta were all the options for the different HUD display, to have it bigger, to adjust it whether you're sitting at a TV or you're sitting at a desk. But even with that, I think there are additional areas where that could be improved. So what are our plans in the full game to adjust the HUD even further?
ハードの表示についてですけど、OBT 段階でもすでにテレビ向けの大きさやデスク向けの大きさの設定があったりして、かなり細かく入ってたと思うんですけど、さらに製品版に向けてハードの表示のオプションを追加しようと思っているのでしょうか？
そうですね、まずオプション以前にですね、そもそもの表示の部分で、武器の、固有の表示だったりだとか、一部の要素の大きさなど見やすさに関わる調整っていうのは、入れていってより見やすく、しています。
Well, firstly, even before we get into the idea of options you can change, I am looking at feedback on the size of the specific weapon unique UI elements that each weapon has. and we're going to review those and make sure that by the time the game comes out that the relative sizes of all those elements is going to make sense for everyone.
のアップデートで、オプションなどの拡充というのも、随時検討しております。
As for additional UI options, we're considering if we can add any in future post-launch updates, so stay tuned on that.
Nice. Watch this space. Now, thank you so much for answering all these questions so far, 𝐂𝐴𝐻-san. And, we are getting near the end of the pre-launch community update stream. So I have one small question that you may have seen amongst the community and one that Joe and I see everywhere. And, let's just between us, we'll keep it between us. Is there going to be another open beta test before launch?
こちらからの最後の質問になるんですけど、毎日のようにコミュニティマネージャーの方の DM やインボックスにも入ってる質問なので、どうしても聞かせてほしいんですが、ここだけの話、ぶっちゃけ OBT はまた次回遊べる機会があるのでしょうか。教えてください、徳田さん。
完全に領土さんとかが答えるような案件だと思うんですけども、特別にお答えすると、検討自体は、しています。ですがもし追加の OBT を実施するとしてもですね、基本的には前回の OBT を遊べなかった方だったりだとか、その追加の、項目テストが、主な目的となりますので、今日お話したような、内容っていうのは基本的に製品版とか Day1 パッチ向けの対応になっていますので、OBT には反映されない、形になります。ちょっとその点はご了承いただきたいです。
And that's the kind of question where I'm used to leaving out to Ryozo, who'd be here with us, and he could answer that kind of high-level decision. But since you've asked, I will address that. We are considering if we will bring back the open beta test, but I would need to make clear that that would purely be essentially another chance for players who missed it the first time around to get a chance to try the game again, and we might maybe be able to add a couple of additional options here or there for people to try out. It wouldn't be something where all the various detailed weapon adjustments we've discussed today would be included. Those are strictly being worked on the basis of including them in the full game, including the day one patch. So again, it's something we haven't ruled out yet, is bringing back the open beta test, but please wait for the full game to come out in order to experience all the wonderful changes we've discussed today. And hopefully you can understand why we've had to separate those two considerations.
All right. Yeah. Well, we'll have to stay tuned for the future for any news. We have covered so much today. I think this has been quite a long stream already. Is there anything that we didn't talk about that you'd like to discuss before we wrap things up?
今日は結構長時間にかけていろんな詳細について教えてもらえたのですごく良かったですが、逆に徳田さんの方からジョノたちからの質問でカバーできていないポイントがあればこの機会にどうぞ教えてください。
はい、この前のメディアプレビューツアーのインタビューでちょっと一つ、言い間違いをしたところがありますので訂正させていただきたいです。
Yeah, there's actually something, it's not so much new information, but I want to have the chance to clarify and maybe make up for a misstatement I might have made during some of the press interviews that we had about the game. So that's something I'd like to discuss now.
サポートハンターが傷を壊さないオプションがあるというふうに言ってしまったんですけど、そちらは電話には入らない形になります。
I think in at least one interview I said that there would be an option in the game where you could set it so that the support hunters who can join you via the SOS flare would not go and break wounds for you, that they'd leave that for you, and that's something that actually won't be in the game on day one.
発売日の仕様としては、プレイヤーが傷をつけてからしばらくの間、壊さないんですけど、1分以上ある程度経つとですね、集中弱点攻撃を使用して傷を破壊することが、発生するようになります。
So the way it's going to work at launch is that if you inflict a wound, but you, for whatever reason, you're not really proactively breaking that wound with your own focus strike, and a certain amount of time passes, maybe a minute or more passes, and you still haven't gone for it, that's the point at which the support hunters will start to look to use a focus strike to break the wound for you.
サポートハンターの、キャラクターによって壊しやすいだったり壊しにくいだったり、あと乗りやすい乗りにくいだったり、先行玉を使ってくれやすいみたいな、行動特性というのはキャラクターによって異なります。
That's something that's sort of unique to each support hunter's personality, though. Each character has a slightly different approach and an AI working for them. So whether or not they're quicker on the draw with focus strikes or less so, it also applies to other features like how often they might try and mount a monster, whether they find mounting harder, whether they're busting out things like flash pods more often or less often. Those all kind of depend on the character themselves. So it's not something that's going to happen on a strict schedule no matter what.
どのサポートハンターに来てほしいかという指定は、発売時はできないんですけど、タイプフォルアップデートでは、検討しております。
So the option that I'm looking to add, perhaps in a title update after launch, is letting players specify which NPC support hunters can join them or which ones they don't want to join them. So that's how I intend to add the ability to control the frequency of that particular feature.
あと細かいことですけど、Day1 パッチだとお供とかサポートハンターが、サインを、送ると自分のところに、来てくれるようになって、ちょっと便利になってます。
Relatedly, one additional feature I wanted to confirm was when you use the signal, this sort of ping that you activate through the menus, the palicos and the support hunters will come to your side during a hunt. So that's just a little quality of life feature that we've added.
Oh, that's really, really cool. And yeah, thank you for the little tidbits of information there. We really appreciate it, Takuda-san. And with that, I think we were kind of coming to the end of our pre-launch community update. So we hope you've all enjoyed it. Joe, anything you want to say before we pass over to Takuda-san and Patrick?
Yeah, I just want to thank everybody out there for sharing their feedback. I know we say a lot that we are listening, and hopefully you guys feel that way after seeing all the updates here. And definitely want to take the chance to thank Takuda-san for joining us. This has been super informative, and I know you're super busy, and the team is extremely busy getting the game ready for launch, so we very much appreciate it. And I'd like to toss it over to you for any closing remarks here.
今日は非常に珍しい機会として直接いろんなお話を聞けて、徳田さんにはこの発売直前のご多忙中の時期にこれだけお時間いただいて非常に感謝しております。最後に徳田さんからユーザーへのメッセージなどあればお願いします。
はい、まずこのような直接ユーザーの皆さんに声を届ける機会を作ってくれた、ジョーとジョの、パトリック、またサポートしてくれた皆さんに、感謝、申し上げます。
Firstly, let me take the chance to thank you guys, Jono and Joe, the community managers, as well as Patrick. It's always slightly weird to refer to yourself when you're translating, but let me go with it. Thank you for your support in setting up this opportunity today.
イギリスとアメリカ、日本と、3拠点で時差も大きい中、すごく大変な作業だと思いますが、ありがとうございました。
Yeah, we're working across 3 time zones here, so I'm in Tokuda-san, that is in Japan. Jono and Patrick are in the UK, and Joe is in the US, so it's difficult to coordinate across so many time zones, so thank you for your work on that.
また改めまして、OBT に、ご参加いただき、さまざまなご意見をいただきましたハンターの皆さんに、感謝申し上げます。OBT ではたくさんの声をいただいてからですね、チームの働きだったり製品のクオリティの向上というのは、本当に目覚ましいものがありまして、今もそれが続いています。ご期待いただけるってことがこんなにも力になるんだなってことを、改めて実感しています。
Just another, to repeat my previous sentiments, thank you so much to all the players who took part in the OBT. It's such a valuable opportunity for us to get your feedback and hear your voices, and we've taken that back to the team. It's become great motivation for them to keep working on the game's quality as we reach the final stages of development. And from what I've seen, they're doing great things, and there's some really great eye-opening stuff happening with the game, and we're continuing to work on that. So again, thank you for the opportunity to implement your feedback in the game.
It really is a pleasure. And once again, to echo Joe, thank you to Takuda-san for your time. We know how incredibly busy yourself and the team are. Thank you, Patrick, for translating for us today. It's great to have you with us again after you joined us at Gamescom. And, from all of us here as well, thank you to you, the community, our awesome players. I mean, your feedback from the beta, your patience, your passion, it really is incredible. So thank you so much. And does anyone have any ideas the best way to round this off? Joe, perhaps?
we wouldn't dare do a happy hunting across multiple time zones. You'll see the lag, but we should do it. We should try it, right?
All right, are you gonna? Do you want to give us a countdown?
ちょっと最後にどうしてもタイムラグが発生すると思うんですけど、人狩り行こうぜの英語になるハッピーハンティングで最後の掛け声でカウントダウンの後にお願いします。
OK。OK。
I'll do the countdown. All right, ready? All right, 3, 2, 1. Happy hunting! We tried.
Bye, everyone.
All right, thank you, everybody. One more.
Well, that gets kind of long a little bit.
OK。
Okay. 3, 2, 1. Happy hunting! Yeah. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
お疲れ様です。 こんにちは。
Gunlance.